So welcome everyone again. Thank you so much for joining our session today, where we will be discussing in depth about coaching and the personal leadership development during your MBA journey here at RSM. Just a few things before we start kicking it off. Please do use the chat box, as I mentioned, for any general comments you have, letting us know where you're tuning in from, and do use the Q&A box for the duration of the webinar for any questions that you might be having. I know it's tempting to ask really individual specific questions, but please do make sure to have them as general as possible in there, so that we'll make sure we'll have our answers given to you to be more inclusive, and also make sure that it covers perhaps any other questions that other people might have. And yeah, we'll be happy to answer those for you. My name is Maria. I'm one of the recruitment and admissions managers for the full-time MBA program at RSM. I'm really happy to be here. I find this topic very, very interesting. I'm sure that you will find that too. It's actually the second webinar that we are preparing for you. We have prepared for you of a series of 3. Next week, we have another webinar focusing on the PLD and coaching. Last week, we had one of our speakers explaining all about coaching opportunities, focusing on the MBA programs, of course, of RSM. I have the pleasure to have with me our 2 wonderful speakers. You can see their details already on our first slide. We have our Director of Coaching and our lead coach here at RSM, Hetty Brandt-Boswijk, joining us, and also our lead faculty and personal leadership development program for our MBAs, Bjorn Arterstam. Thank you so much both for joining. And I will let you now to continue with our webinar. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Maria, for that wonderful introduction, and hello, everybody. I think we should just get started with what we're going to talk about today. Those of you who were in the program in the webinar last week, you'll know that my work is aligned with that of Bjorn as Director of Coaching. I organize the team coaching, the group coaching, and the individual coaching for our MBA programs here at RSM. So with no further ado, let me click through to what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to do a really quick recap on what we discussed last week, just in case you weren't in the webinar. If you weren't, you can go back and to our admissions office and ask them for the link to the recording. Maria, are you recording now?
Yes, the session is recorded, and we will make sure to share it once it's ready with everyone that has registered for the event.
Okay, perfect. And we will also be sharing the slides with that link to the recording. When I've done a quick recap of coaching at RSM, I will hand the floor over to Bjorn, who will talk about the personal leadership development program and how coaching works within PLD. And at the end of the session, we'll be giving you an opportunity to ask some questions. However, as Maria said, if you have questions in between time, please drop them in the Q&A box, because we'll be checking up on that as we move forward to see if there are any questions that are relevant to what we're talking about at that moment. So, coaching at RSM, real quick recap. Coaching, which is not mentoring, counseling, consulting, or therapy, is a way of developing people's skills and abilities to boost motivation and performance. And it can also help deal with issues and challenges before they become major problems. Why do we say it's not mentoring, counseling, consulting, or therapy? The main difference is that in coaching, the coach assists the coachee, which is what we call the person being coached, in coming up with their own solutions. It's a well-known fact that when someone tells us to do something, it doesn't resonate as much with us as if we've come up with that idea ourselves. And coaching is based on helping people come up with their own ideas, their own using their own creativity to find their own solutions to whatever questions they have. So, coaching in RSM's personal leadership development program consists of team or group coaching, depending on whether you're in the full-time or the executive part-time MBA, and individual leadership coaching. So this is working with you as an individual. All individual and team group coaching at RSM is carried out by certified coaches, credentialed by the International Coaching Federation, affiliated with RSM as professional associates. And in our personal leadership development program, we've been doing coaching, team, group coaching, and individual coaching now for quite a few years. And the coaches who are involved in that have also been involved since the beginning of coaching at RSM. And therefore, they are very well aware of the context of, in your MBA program, the context of PLD, etc. So they do have some subject matter expertise when it comes to supporting our students through team and group coaching and individual coaching. So moving on, I believe it's time to give you the floor, Bjorn. And yeah, I would say over to you.
Over to me. Oh my God, the pressure is on. Thank you, Hetty. And it's a pleasure to be with you this morning, this afternoon, or this evening, depending on where you are in the world. So my name is Björn Atterstam, and for those of you who were here in the beginning, as we were chit-chatting a little bit, it was made clear that I am from Sweden, but I now live in the Netherlands since a few years back. And I have this role of, together with Hedy and Agatha, I think you're on the session as well. We sort of run this PLD program with its different components that we will talk about today. And this, it's a few important points to make here, because the coaching work that the primary focus is, it doesn't exist as a standalone thing, even though it could exist as a standalone thing and it would still be incredibly important and incredibly powerful. But coaching exists as a component of a wider or a bigger thing, which we call PLD, or Personal Leadership Development, which is a course that you will take if you're part of the full-time MBA, or also if you're part of the executive MBA. It will look slightly different in terms of how we do things and the topics we cover, because the two programs are slightly different in how they're configured. But the things I will be talking today is universally true for both if you are in the full-time MBA or if you are in the executive MBA. The PLD is also unique because it is one of the few things, or for the executive MBAs, it's the only course that actually goes through the whole duration of the program, meaning that you will start with PLD in the very first week of your introduction, and then it will run through, and you will sort of, for the full-time MBAs, we have PLD the first day of class, and we have PLD on the last day of class. So in a way, it goes like or serves, as it says on the slide there, like a developmental backbone of sorts that carries through the program and make sure you remember the goals you had with coming to the MBA program, and gives you a chance to check in how you're doing on that. And then we'll give you a whole range of different opportunities to actually learn the things you wanted to learn about and develop in the way that we know, and you in most cases will know you need to develop. And the stuff we work on in PLD, it would be, stuff you would suspect that we would be doing in terms of leadership angles, such as increasing your self-awareness, working on this topic of emotional intelligence. What is it? How can you have it? Why it is important? And more broadly, how can you make sure that when you show up in the world, do you have a positive impact, or do you have the impact that you are seeking to have? And the photo you see here on the slide right now, that is actually sorry, I tricked you, Hedy. The photo that you see is from one of our classes that we had just maybe 5-6 weeks ago. And as you can see here, it's not a usual classroom setting that we're in here, but this particular session that you see a photo from, the theme here was we call it embodied leadership, meaning that the fact that you bring your head to the work of leading, but you also bring your whole self. Right now, Hedy, you can jump to the next one. And PLD, the main focus that we are working on is you. And some people get a kick out of this because we like to think about ourselves and we like to work on ourselves. So we spend a lot of time thinking about you. Who are you? What's your strengths? What do you need to get better at? Where are you coming from? Where are you going? how are you today and how do you want to change in the future? And in addition to that, in addition to kind of learning more about yourself is, of course, when you lead and when you show up at work, it's not only about you, because then it would be too selfish, too egoistic. You're always in a context with other people. So in addition to learning more about yourself, you then spend a lot of time working on understanding other people and how you can be more skilled when you are with other people. What does it mean to create good relationships? What does it mean to work well together, etc. And all of those things also happens in a context. So good leadership usually starts with understanding what's the situation I'm in or we are in. What's the right course of action? What do we need to get done here? So those three different things, so work on you, working on other people, understanding other people, and also understanding the context we're in are three sort of fundamental elements that we explore during the PLD. And I should add one more thing before you move on, Hattie. Actually, it doesn't matter what slide you're on, but this notion of understanding yourself and working on yourself, there's an important angle there that we spend a lot of time thinking about, which is that in PLD, we are really not trying to turn you into something you are not. We're not trying to turn you into a superhuman of some sort. We're not expecting you to tick a whole bunch of boxes that Harvard Business Review tells you you need to be like when you want to be an effective leader. It's not at all like that, but rather it's about becoming a slightly better, a slightly more skilled, a slightly more mature or sophisticated maybe version of yourself so that you can be more effective on this job of leading. And now we can go to the next one, Hedy. And having said that, being more skilled in who you are, or being a little bit better at being you and bring that skill to other people in the world, we know that there are certain areas that an effective leader needs to be aware of and good at, working with or being with. And this kind of visual that you see on the slide right now, it is actually a model that was developed at what is called the RSM Center for Leadership. And the work that went into this was a rigorous study looking at, if you look at all the many different papers that have been published around leadership, and if we aggregate that and see if we can pull out the different key areas that a leader needs to be capable of or good at, this is what you come up with. So there's an element of you as leader needing to be able to and comfortable with leading and initiating change in different ways. There is an element of task, meaning, there's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to get done, and you need to be skilled at getting those stuff done, either by yourself or through other people. So how do you, structure work? How do you assign work? How do you delegate? How do you empower others? There's a strong element, as we already said, around other people. So an effective leader will invest him or herself in maintaining or building, establishing trustful relationships with others. There is an element of being an ethical or values-based leaders, which seems to matter more and more, right? So in general, people like to work with someone. We like our manager or our boss to be an ethical person and not a crook or an unethical person. So we also spend time doing that. And as we kind of already just spoke about, that there is something there having the, a right character and being aware of your identity. So effective leaders, and we will work with you on that in PLD, allows you to lead from a place of personal strength and this notion of being being authentically you rather than role playing or pretending to be someone or something you are not. If you try to do that, you're going to run into trouble because you're not going to be able to sort of sustain that over time. This leadership compass, as you see, that is also something that we use, for instance, as part of PLD. You will be invited to do what is called a 360-degree feedback survey, where you will ask other people for feedback on how they see you. And then when other people then answers questions, those questions will be related to these different areas. So I'm just going to pause there and see if there are any questions. Maria, did we get any questions yet?
Not yet. Everyone's really focused on their presentation.
Giving a lot of information. Good. All right. If you have any questions or comments as we go along, just type it into the chat or type it into the Q&A box. So Hedy, then the next visual, please. So when you arrive and when you go through the whole MBA and then the PLD, then there are certain ways of working with you. And here we use a fancy word, which is learning modality. Then we have some formats of learning, some ways of learning that are different, that complement each other's, and it all gives you sort of different kinds of benefits. And the first one, which is sort of like perhaps the classic one, is when we sit down in a classroom together and we talk about stuff. And as you go through the MBA, you will do a lot of these classroom sessions, of course, in many different courses on many different topics. In PLD, these classroom sessions are slightly different, and I'll talk about that in just a bit, in the sense that they tend to be, less about looking at PowerPoint slides and taking notes, and they usually involves a higher degree of experiential learning or doing stuff together. So in the photo you're seeing here right now, this is from a PLD session from April this year, and all these MBA students, together with my colleague, or our colleague Sophia, who's in the middle, she's doing a thumbs up. We are involved in like a leadership simulation of sort, and you can see there's a timer that counts down up on the right-hand side of the screen. So there's like a pressure of getting the right things in the right time here when we do this activity. So learning in the classroom, that's the first way we have together. And then Hetty, if you jump on to the next. And this is, something that Hetty already spoken about, and we're going to come back towards this towards the end of the session today. But in addition to being all of us together in the classroom doing different fun and exciting things, we also spend a lot of time in smaller groups, groups of 3, groups of 4, groups of 5, groups of 6, depending what's going on. So this group work or team or group coaching is a core component of PLD. It's slightly different here, because sometimes, you're just being asked, when we have a classroom session, you will be asked to, go and sit in a group of 3 people and talk about X. And then we have the team and the group coaching, which is more structured. You should come back to that later on, and happens under the supervision of, or which is facilitated by a coach or a team coach or group coach in different ways. Yes, so that's learning modality number 2, this small group work. And how about we go to number 3, which is of course one of the core topics for the session today, which is this individual coaching. And we'll come back and talk more about the benefits of this and why it really matters. But it's really a unique and it's really a powerful thing that you actually have a chance to sit down, spend one-on-one time with a professional certified coach for you to talk about the stuff that matters most to you as you think about your own journey and your own development in different ways. And then the fourth aspect, which we have, which is sort of a core part of PLD, is this you doing stuff by yourself. For some of us, that seems like, oh, yeah, that's really nice. I can just sit and think by myself. Some of you might go, oh, I'd rather talk to people. And of course, other conventional language to that would be if we're introverted or we're extroverted. And in both those cases, though, you will have plenty of assignments and activities that require you to sit and think and write. And sometimes, or often, it's much more action-oriented than that, which means that you're now going to go back to your place of work, or you're going to think about the next time you interact with other people in a group setting or in a workplace setting, and you're going to intentionally try and do something differently. And we call this an experiment. So you would do some leadership experiments to try and change something around how you show up with other people, and do that in a different way and see if that makes a difference in the impact you're having to others. So those are the 4 main components of how we work and how we guide you through the PLD journey throughout the whole duration of the MBA program. Now, let's talk a little bit more about some of the specifics around this, because PLD it's a very different beast, to use that metaphorical language. It's a different kind of animal. It's a different kind of experience than most of the other courses you go through in an MBA, because in many of them, there's a specific skill or a specific knowledge you need to, or a specific skill you need to learn, or a specific knowledge you need to take in different ways. And often then, we will have one of our expert faculties there who will talk to you about accounting or finance or marketing or strategic management, whatever it is. And often then in this kind of expert-led learning, there is a there's a right answer to things. There is one right way of doing accounting. There is one way of doing corporate finance. And now I'm accelerating because someone would say, actually, yeah, there's many different ways. Yeah, but usually there is a correct way of doing it. And if you don't do it in the correct way, you're going to get the wrong result, which might be something you don't want to have, right? In PLD, it's very different in the sense that rather than being expert-led, it's self-led, or sometimes it's peer-led. So it requires you to take much more responsibility for your own learning and for what is important to you. So in a way, you have more degrees of freedom, and you have to take more accountability for doing the things you need to do in order to learn from PLD. So it's up to you. You will identify your own improvement areas. You will identify your own questions that are important for you to get answers to. You will make your own sense of the topics we talk about in class, and you will take some deliberate actions, which is in line with, or which is what I just spoke about in terms of different experiments that you might do. So rather than being expert-led, it's self-led adult learning. So it has a different flavor. Some people love that, it immediately gets into it. Some people say, oh, that's really hard. I have to think about this myself. You won't tell me the right answer? No, we won't tell you the right answer. You have to come up with it yourself. And that's part of the learning you're going through, and that's part of your growth and your development. And if we had video cameras on, I would now look at all your faces to see if you sort of liked this or if you didn't like it. But that's how we roll within PLD and within this coaching work. All right, let's do the next slide. Oh, yes. One of the reasons this is more self-led than expert-led is because we work on questions where only you have the answers. No one else can tell you the answers to these. I mean, sometimes you might, read a book, or you can watch a TED Talk or something, and you might get some ideas. But the questions we are working with in PLD, they're quite philosophical. Hence we have a Greek bust here in the visual. Things like, who am I? Who am I really? Is this who I want to be? How come I am this way? What is really important to me? What was really important to me 10 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago? What do I think will be important to me 5 years from now? And what do I really want in general, in life? What do I really want in this MBA? What do I really want for my career? What do I need to have in place for me to feel good about myself and for me to perform well? Someone might say, oh, I just need clear objectives. Yeah, maybe clear objectives is one thing that you need, but it's usually much more nuanced than that. There's usually many more things that you need to have in order for you to perform well and to feel happy in your life. How do others see me? Oh, I don't know. Is that important? Yeah, it's really important. And often we might have a sense of that, but we don't have a precise sense of how other people see me. So we will invite you to get some feedback from other people to see or to explore how you come across to other people, and what it is that I need to get better at. Oh, I'm just going to do my MBA. Yeah, you do your MBA, and you will learn a whole bunch of really important stuff in order to be successful in business and life. But can you be even more specific around, if you think about your passion, if you think about your vision for yourself, if you think about the dreams that you have, your aspirations for your health in the future, if that's what you want to accomplish, if that's where you want to get to or do, then what do you need to be really good at? Many people don't know the answer to that question. And luckily we have PLD to help you find out those answers to those questions. All right, let's move on. I think there's a couple of more before we open it up. Yes, and this is kind of just a way to summarize some of the things I've already spoken about. You see this visual of the head and the heart. Sometimes in this metaphor, you also have hands, but here it's only the heart and the head. So most courses in the MBA helps you to improve your knowledge and your capacity for doing certain things. How do I run a sustainable business? How do I read a balance sheet? How do I create a new strategic plan for my company, etc.? So most of the traditional MBA courses, they improve your ability to know certain things and do certain things. And the PLD sort of serves as not as a counterbalance, but a complement, where rather than improving your knowing and doing, PLD aims to develop your being, how and who you are. And we know, and a quite popular way to think about this leadership, it's leadership is about not only what you know and what you're able to do, but also who you are as a human being. Are you a decent human being that I want to work with? Do you have the right values? Are you ethical? Are you someone I can trust? Are you someone who listens to me? So sometimes we use this simplified model of be, know, and do. So an effective leader knows who they are, and it's about who am I, what's the being. It's about the knowledge I have, the knowing, and it's also what I need to be able to do about the doing. So for us, and you might come back to this, having PLD in the MBAs is a really important sort of way to make sure that the experience you have in the MBA is well-rounded, that works with you as a whole person, not just your head. And it's a way for RSM to ensure that the people we send out into the world to have a positive impact, are able to think more holistically around themselves in the world and the responsibility we take for the results we generate. Yes, I guess you can do the last one. I think the last one was kind of just a way to bring this together. We spoke about this already. The classroom sessions, the individual work, your individual coaching, and the team and group coaching as the 4 different modalities that we have in PLD. And now I spoke a lot. So I'll just shut up for a bit, and Hedi, I hand it back to you, and we'll take any questions that people might have.
And then when you do webinars like this and you've got all your slides and you just keep talking and talking. And I also know that we could probably say far more about the slides that you shared, but thank you very much so far. I believe, I don't know if there are any questions, Maria. Maybe you could just...
Yes.
We just had one coming in, and I also have a few questions to ask, which I took from quite a few of our candidates that we get in touch with during the year. But let's cover the first one of Julia. She's asking, when do we collate the 360 feedback for the PLD? When is that during the MBA year? Could you maybe help us with that?
I'll jump in and answer that. So Julia, it depends on which one of the 2 programs you're interested in attending. So for the full-time MBAs, you get the information about the 360 just in the very beginning of the program. So you would collate your data sort of in the first month of joining the MBA. If you do the executive MBA, you do it slightly later, then it's 3-4 months into the program.
Thank you so much, Bjorn. I have a question actually that I get quite often from people that we speak with and are interested in the MBA programs. Why do you believe that the Personal Leadership Development Program is one of the few parts of the curriculum of RSM that runs throughout the whole year? What could be some reasons that we have that?
Well, I'll go first, Hedi, and then you can chip in. I mean, the notion of personal growth or personal development, we assume that, and it's most individuals, unless you're a strange person, we have this inherent need of feeling that we are growing, feeling that we are developing in different ways. And in the biggest majority of cases, in very, very most cases, accomplishing that growth, getting that kind of development is not something that you could just do instantly. So the work of personal development takes time. It's a slow process. It's like baking sourdough bread. You have to take care of your mother before you bake the sourdough bread, or it's like brewing your own beer. I don't know what metaphor I should use, but it's not a quick process. Sometimes we might have like a traumatic event that shocks us into a different state of being, right? But that's like an exception rather than the rule. So you can't just change damn it, or you need to get better at this now. No, that's not how it works. You really need time to sit with it and to work with it. And if you try to do that, just in an 8-week span, you can only do so much. So this idea of having it weave through the whole program really serves this purpose of making the change happen. And an additional rationale for why it stretches over the whole time is that what you think you need to get better of in the first month of your MBA program is, in many cases, different from what you think you need to get better of in your last month of the MBA program when you have gone through the whole thing and you have learned these different things. So, usually in the beginning, we have hypotheses around what we want to grow and develop, and we have some ideas, fantasies maybe around what we need to get better at. And then towards then, actually, we might have greater clarity and we might realize, actually, this is what I thought in January. Now looking back, it seems kind of silly. And I think this is what really matters to me instead.
Hetty, anything to add from your end?
No, I think Bjorn has covered it really well. But I do know from, conversations with students and alumni, and it's something that, when we're on the road recruiting students, I've always said to people, be prepared for an experience that will change your life. As Bjorn said, people do the MBA for a certain reason. But as you're growing in knowledge and in connections and relationships throughout the program, you start to hear and learn things that you didn't know before. And that could change your insights into who you are and what you want. And with all the learning modalities in PLD, particularly the group work, the individual coaching, and the individual work, the reflection and the observations, the reason PLD runs for the whole of the program is to continue the support for your personal development while you're learning the knowledge from the other classes, because things can change quite rapidly when you're in this period of personal growth and development. And if we would say, okay, we'll do one core course on personal leadership development and it stops 6 months into the program, then you're either you've got 6 months or a year where there's no support. So it makes sense to maintain the support throughout the program, through all the modalities, to ensure that you've always got a sparring partner somewhere when it comes to your personal growth.
And maybe if I build on what Hetty just said, and maybe now I'm going to make a slightly semantic point, perhaps, because we call this course and this experience that we talk about PLD, and we outline what's involved in this florsome sessions and the group work and the individual work. But based on what Hetty just said, of course, the whole MBA program is a PLD thing in itself.
Yes.
All of it together nurtures supports your development in a different way. So it's not only about here, so the whole thing supports your growth and development into fulfilling your aspirations for the future, right? And the PLD, as we're talking about today, kind of is one segment of that is specific, more focused on sort of the psychological aspects, perhaps, of your work and your growth.
Right, as you said, Bjorn, the being parts, the MBA classes are the doing. And I think, Maria's point to why does it run all year is that there are those moments where, who you are in the program it takes, align with yourself, align with your values, etc. And that changes as you learn, and you learn from the doing. So it is this whole picture of, as you said, focusing on the whole person.
Thank you so much, both.
Which leads me into the coaching, I think, really well, because that's what we do, focusing on the whole person.
And maybe there's a question in there, Heather, that you might just want to talk about when you get into the coaching part. And Maria will tell you what the question is, unless you see it yourself.
Yes, for sure. It ties very, very nicely with the next question that we have received, which is regarding coaching opportunities throughout the MBA program. We have one of our participants asking, how does this work? Is there a coach assigned per team, per student, per group? When does that happen throughout the MBA? Would you like, Hetty, perhaps to help us with this?
I will just move on, because in the next 2 slides, all will become crystal clear.
Amazing.
So, speaking about team or group coaching, I explained in a little bit more detail last week about what the difference is between those two. One is more, team coaching is more sort of performance related, individual and team performance. Group coaching is more about peer-to-peer coaching and peer-to-peer support for development. So team coaching is in the full-time program and group coaching is in the executive MBA. And what actually happens at the beginning of each program, and this is the same for both programs, is that you are assigned a group, and in full-time MBA, we call those peer action learning groups. And in executive MBA, it's called a leadership council. And that is the team or the group, whatever word you want to use, that you will stay in for the duration of your MBA program for the personal leadership development. So as it's personal leadership development, it's about your human being developing. This creates an opportunity for you to build powerful connections to support you as you grow moving forward. In the more operational type of courses, like finance, operations, marketing, HR, etc., you will change teams from time to time, but your PLD team or group will remain the same throughout the program, which we have seen actually deepens the connections and deepens the personal growth. And to answer the question, yes, you are assigned, once you've been assigned, randomly assigned to a group at the beginning of your program, and it's not as random as you might think, because we do look at criteria such as cultural background, gender, and educational background for putting those teams together. But you are then assigned a team coach or a group coach, and that person who will be working with you and your team for the whole of PLD, they will also work with you as an individual coach. So yes, you have a specific assigned coach for the whole of the MBA program. This doesn't mean, unfortunately, that you can go and sit and chat with them at any time you wish. There is a limit to the number of hours you can have individual coaching, but that's different per program. So how does team or group coaching support PLD? Well, it unlocks team potential and it enhances collective intelligence. So this is really working with team building assignments, sharing insights, etc., about what is going on in the classroom. So when you've got the modalities, you go from the classroom learning into the group learning. And that's where you discuss what's going on in the classroom. Bjorn aligns with the coaching center to ensure that what we're doing in the teams, in the smaller teams, aligns with the classroom. And you discuss a bit deeper about it. So it gives an opportunity to deepen the knowledge from the classroom. It's also a supportive environment. And sometimes when you're on your own, it's really hard to motivate yourself. But when you're in a group like that, if somebody has a problem or an issue or is trying to work through some stuff with regards to their leadership impact, you've got this ready-made team to help you. They're going through the same process. They understand your perspective and can help you as an individual to move forward. And in that, it also provides a stronger awareness of each group member's own motivations and character within a team environment. So looking from the perspective of what it brings you, unlocking your potential, having someone to support you, but what it also does, it gives you insight into who you are within a team environment. Most of us, I would actually venture to say all of us, at some point in our careers, work in a team environment. There is no job basically where you work on your own, except maybe a lighthouse operator stuck on a rock somewhere in their own, but they're even, dependent on other people to help them. So we all at some point work in a team or in a relationship way. And within these systems of teams or colleagues from other teams, etc., it's always important to know what your impact is within that team and how that impacts the whole environment you're in. As Bjorn said earlier, looking at yourself and what others think of you. It isn't about, oops, what do they think of me? Have I done anything wrong, kind of thing? But it's okay, so what's my impact on others, and how can I actually impact someone else positively? So if you're having a bad impact on someone, it's a good idea to just get someone to hold the mirror up and go, wait a minute, what could you do differently? And in this way, it's understanding team performance and each individual's influence on team processes. So this is not only about you learning about your impact, but it's about understanding how systems of teams work and how teams are systems of individuals. And so, you know, it's a leadership growth as well, to learn about, as a future team leader, no doubt, what is it that you should, as a leader, be looking out for to be able to create one of the, you know, the best team that you could possibly create. So as far as that's concerned, this team and group coaching actually works in sort of you, the group, the system, to help you learn also from a leadership perspective. And in that way, it proactively stretches and enhances the group's collective strengths, as it's also doing the same for you. And finally, it helps you be comfortable with ambiguity, because when you're working with other people, every single one of us is an individual. And if in the future you're leading a team, it's really important to understand how that team is made up of individuals and how uncomfortable it can be sometimes to have things have ambiguous moments in your team, and how to deal with that from a leadership perspective. And then the other modality is individual leadership coaching. And as I mentioned just now, your team coach is also your individual leadership coach. And how does individual leadership coaching support PLD? Well, it unlocks the individual potential and it enhances emotional intelligence. And, you know, I think a lot of people think, oh, emotional intelligence, you know, we don't need that and that sort of stuff. But it is crucial to understanding human beings, yourself and your team members, to have some of the emotional intelligence, the self-awareness, the empathy, the smart communication, you know, having that at your fingertips and enhancing that through this process, just by having a conversation with your individual leadership coach on an individual level, could really build your self-awareness as far as that's concerned. It will help you to move forward with your personal leadership goals. And I want to make a real clear split here between your personal leadership goals and your professional goals. So your professional goals, the next job you want or whatever, that is supported by our career coaches. Within PLD, we're really looking at who you are as a leader and your personal leadership development. Individual leadership coaching also, you know, the coach will hold a mirror up and give you a stronger awareness of your own motivations and character within a team environment. But it's in the confidential space of a one-to-one conversation. So it's just about you, and you can also bring up things that you struggle with within the team environment, because it's only about you and your growth. I think it's important also as leaders to understand what your influence is on others, not the impact, because the impact is who you are and how they feel about you. But what can you do with that impact? How can you influence others to get what you want with your team, or to negotiate? And so impact and influence are two different things here. And in the individual coaching, you can actually just, you know, sort of go on this journey of discovery to see where you might be able to change that. Yes, stretching and enhancing your personal strengths, just like the group coaching, team coaching does for the team. And stepping outside your comfort zone, knowing there is someone to catch you if you fall. And stepping out of the comfort zone is the best place. Outside the comfort zone is the best place to be when you're learning. If you try to stay within your comfort zone, your brain isn't going to change. It's not going to take up the extra information that's coming in. There's a sort of a block. So being courageous and brave and stepping out of your comfort zone. I mentioned this last week. I'm going to repeat it. There's this saying that says, there is no comfort in the learning zone, as there is no learning in the comfort zone. So if you just sit back and go, I'm just going to stay in my comfortable little place, you're holding back the possibilities out there for you. But stepping out courageously out of your comfort zone, the learning could be immense. So we've got to the Q&A. How can you help us, Maria? What can we help you with?
Thank you so much, both. I saw that while you were explaining, Hetty, about the coaching opportunities, Bjorn has been very busy as well, adding comments in the chat box. Very insightful. Thank you both for this explanation. And I will make sure to remember what you said, Hetty, about the comfort zone and the learning zone. That's a really nice thing to have in mind. And it's so true, absolutely. Something that we also like to explain a little bit more to people that we speak with about the MBA program and the personal leadership development and coaching is, of course, and luckily so, quite a lot of the people that are interested in the MBA programs of RSM really appreciate this approach that the school has with regards to personal development that is going to help them also with their career opportunities. That's essential for a lot of them. But how do actually students approach the PLD and the coaching sessions while the MBA year starts? Do you see any changes in their approach throughout the duration of the MBA year?
Well, yes. And of course, every single individual is an individual. So, you know, when I do the intro to coaching at the beginning of the program, there are students who will say, well, why wouldn't you do coaching? You know, so they've been coached before, etc. There are also other people who go, I've never been coached before, and it seems rather uncomfortable to me, you know, to talk about me. In my culture, we don't talk about ourselves. You know, there's a huge cultural difference as well. And you notice throughout the program, as we support, because our coaches constantly reach out and say, you know, you've not been in for an individual coaching session for a while, and maybe it would be, I will be at RSM at that day, and maybe you want to come and join in, etc. What I will say also is, although it might sound a little bit pedantic, the team or group coaching is mandatory in PLD. It's part of the program. And so even those people who feel like they're outside their comfort zone, they're actually made to do the team or group coaching. Not the same for individual coaching, because that can get a little personal. By the way, so can team and group coaching, but never mind. But talking one-on-one with someone about your dreams and, you know, about maybe your limiting beliefs and how you want to change that, etc., can be quite a challenge. But what you notice is if they step out of their comfort zone and they take at least one session, you know, then they discover that it's actually not as bad as they thought, because our coaches are all very lovely people. But that it's actually quite powerful. You know, there is magic in coaching. Basically, because you get an opportunity to just sit and talk about what's going on with you. And the coach sits back and listens and just maybe tells you what they're observing or asks questions. They get curious. And I once had an executive MBA coachee, an executive MBA student come to me a month after our first session. And if I'm honest, I can't rightly remember what questions I asked or whatever, but they were open to answering the questions. And as they were answering, and I love this way the brain works, you know, they first of all sit there and go, I don't know. You know, you ask a question, they're going, I don't know. But, and then suddenly it comes and they do know. They came back to me and they said, I could never have imagined that a 1 hour conversation could have had such a big impact on my life. The things we discussed in our coaching session, I tried at work. I experimented, just like Bjorn was saying earlier about experimenting. I experimented, and my team did a complete 180. And that's when he said coaching is magic. Actually, he walked in the room and said, do you believe in magic? And I'm going, yes, and so, but I noticed that when people realize that it's not going to your therapist and stuff like that, we celebrate our students in coaching. We celebrate their potential, and we connect and get into this relationship to help them reach their full potential. So, you know, this is all about the future. We're future facing. How can we help you break out of your limitations and be truly the best you can be? And that's the power of individual and team and group coaching.
And I think just adding to that, I mean, sometimes people have this fantasy, because I guess maybe that was true a bunch of years ago, where, you know, you got a coach when you were messing up, you know,
Okay.
the coach is here to fix you, you know, but of course that's not at all the case. And if you take any person who's, you know, leading in his or her field, an athlete or anything else, you know, they would have one or more coaches that guides them to being their best version, or guides them to their excellence. And in the same way, the coaches we have in the PLD program will help you to be really excellent, or to be better than what you were before you started the PLD and the MBA journey.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I have one last question, and we'll make sure we'll keep it within the hour so that we respect everyone's time and yours as well. Maybe a question for Bjorn, but Hetty, feel free to add. What have you noticed that is the most exciting activity for people during the PLD?
Oh, yeah, it's a difficult question to answer, for the obvious reasons that we are all different, and we take away different things. So some people like the more action-oriented stuff where you can do. Some people like the more kind of deep thinking that we would kind of do. But the thing that, you know, often has a really big impact on people that many people didn't expect is how powerful it can be to have this experience of being fully seen or heard, not only by your coach, but also by other members in your team or in your group. So this awareness of I'm being completely fully seen and heard and accepted by these people has a great transformative potential in it. And for many people, oh God, I don't know when someone listened to me in this way, or I don't know when I felt so connected to someone, and I feel, you know, incredible after this. So that's one thing that is universally sort of, you know, a universal aha moment, if I use that language.
And I agree with you, Bjorn. You know, every single human being has a need to be seen and heard. And the opportunities that we give in PLD, in the groups and in the individual coaching, means that every single one of our students is seen and heard for where they're at and for where they want to go to. And that is incredibly powerful. And I think it's also probably what motivates us to continue what we do.
I can imagine you get so much energy back from it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
I'll move on to the last slide for you, Maria, to close out.
thank you. Oh, thank you so much. You can see here for the ones who are watching us the details of Bjorn and of Hetty. Feel free to connect with them. I'm very sure they'll be happy to add you in their LinkedIn network. And below you will find the details of our recruitment and admissions team for the International Full-Time MBA program. If you're interested for another type of MBA program that we have, such as our Executive MBA or our Global MBA, feel free to reach out to one of us. We will direct you to the right colleague. You can see the details of my colleague Carrie, Simone, and myself. We also have the opportunity for you to request a CV assessment if you'd like to check if you're eligible for applying for one of the MBA programs that we offer. So feel free to reach out. We are looking forward also to seeing you in the next and last part of the series on coaching and personal leadership development that we have for you next week, Tuesday. So feel free to register for it, and we'll be happy to welcoming you and discussing more about PLD experiences. Thank you all
And
so
I
much.
might just say,
Of
I would
course.
encourage everyone to sign up for that, because today you've had Bjorn and I talk about it from our side, and next week I'll be talking to an alumna who's been through the program.
Nice.
I'm sure her insights will be very interesting.
Super cool.
That's very important to mention that. Thank you so much, Hetty. Indeed, you'll be hearing it right from the source, from someone who has experienced that recently as well. So it's super exciting. Thank you very, very much for joining us and for being with us today. We'll make sure that we'll share the recording with you for everyone who has registered for the webinar, so you can go back to the slides and all the information that our lovely speakers have shared with us. Thank you so much, Hetty and Bjorn, for all the insightful information you've shared with us and for being with us today, for preparing this presentation for us. And
Pleasure, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Maria.
our pleasure. And hopefully see you all next time in the next event that we have prepared for
Or
you.
in the program next year.
Yeah,
Or 2 years
that too.
That would be even better.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, Maria.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.